This is the newest scam in Canada, and I'm going to be exposing it to you guys so you don't fall a victim. So I'm going to be taking a look at the whole situation. I had a situation where it was twice. It happened to me twice, and for a lot of you already falling victims of similar situations. So stay glued to this video. Do not get your eyes off the screen or your ears off the screen for anything else. This is going to save your life and save the life of people around you. So in 2023, towards the end of the year, while I was still dealing with my emotions from the season, because around that period I had a divorce, I made some major decisions. One of them was getting a car, which turned out to be the wrong decision at that time. Then another decision I made was regarding some money I received from the dissolution of the property I had with my ex. So when I got the money, I started thinking, what do I really do with this money? How do I invest it? So one day I saw an ad on Facebook about a rent to own property. I clicked on it, and they were explaining how I could pay a certain amount monthly, and after a period of time, the house will become mine. I thought, wow, this sounds like a great opportunity, right? So I went ahead with it. I gave them a call. They explained to me, but that decision turned out to be one of the worst decisions I have made in my life. So looking back, I honestly did not even know my state of mind when I was making that decision, because it just doesn't make sense. The rent to own agreement was for a house that was worth $800,000, which I realistically would not even qualify for. And on top of that, I had to pay $5,200 every single month. I was living in Edmonton while the property was located in Calgary. So at the time, I was doing short-term rental in the property. I also had properties. I've had properties in Victoria, Toronto before, and I was doing short-term rentals in those properties. But due to regulations, I had to shut down some of them, right? So I needed a property of my own, and that was when short-term rental was moving away from a rental to more on properties that you own. So I need to get a property of my own so I could continue running my short-let in some of these cities. So I assume Calgary at that time will perform like Toronto, because when I had a property in Toronto, that property was like back to back. Like the income there, the revenue there was amazing. So when they told me the short-term rental could when they told me that we're paying $5,200 every month, I was like, okay, that's not bad, because based on Toronto, I was in Toronto market to think of Calgary, right? I was like, based on Toronto market, we make way more than that in a month, right? Because of the way the market is. So I kind of already have an idea of the income that Toronto market would be. And based on I was in Edmonton, I didn't really understand what Calgary market would look like. Anyway, so I will say right now, I kind of rushed into it, right? So I took over the property in November 2023, and the first month there was no revenue because I was setting up my short-term rental, and at that time I've paid $5,200 to the company. So according to the agreement, I will pay $5,200, then $1,000, as long as I pay on time, $1,000 of that money will be put into a savings for me and kept for the next 2 years. After 2 years, I will be able to take that savings, and the house will be paid down based on the payment I have made, right? And I'll be able to finance the rest. So I was like, okay, that's fine. This is a really good way to at least own a property and still be paying your mortgage, so I thought. So I contacted the company, and they told me that I had actually no, before I even get there, so after I go to the 5th month, my guys, The first month I just paid, I did set up in the first month. The second month was slow, the revenue was not really coming. The third month was slow. At that point I was now using my salary to pay these shortlets. Sorry, I was using my salary to pay this house, to pay 5,200. I had no salary of my own anymore, right? So the fourth month was also slow. I was like, okay, what kind of market did I get into? And the fifth month, I just knew that, okay, something is really wrong. Something is definitely wrong. So in the fifth month, I called the company and I said, CEO, I don't think I want this rent to own agreement again. Come and collect your house. I know they do again. And they were not like, okay, I had two options. Say one of the options was for me to sell the property and to someone else that want to buy it. And the other option was for me to just walk away and lose my deposit. So at that time, I deposited $50,000 cash for this house. And I kept paying 5,200 every single month. The thought of it now is just like, are you okay? Okay, so that was also and they said there was also possibility of legal consequences if I leave the house, depending on the condition of the property, that they can go legal on me, claim things that might not even exist, and so on and so forth. So I felt really stuck. So I decided that, okay, I was going to keep on and keep paying and just take one day at a time until I'm able to wait for 2 years and I'm able to own the property. And it's funny, at that time I had this friend that I had discussed with. I was like, hey, cool, I have this property, let's buy the property together. And the friend was like, oh yeah, sure, we can buy it together. But the friend earns pretty good income. So that was how I was like, okay, worst case scenario, if I cannot qualify for the property alone, I have my friend to rely on. Okay, so the property honestly barely generated half of what I was paying monthly. Barely. After I remove all the expenses, it was barely generating half of what I was paying monthly. And friends advised me that, and I told them, like, see, I just, that 50K, let them take it. I can't do this. I was choking, literally. At that point, I was not even relying on my own I was not relying on my own pay. I was not relying on my own salary anymore, because my salary is already going to that property. I was relying on the other properties that I had for short-term renters, right? So for my regular upkeep. So during that time, I just said, you know what, okay, let me just stay. I was taking it one day at a time, right? And I stayed to the end of the deal, and that's when the scam began. The serious scam began. So during that time, I kind of already accumulated about $80,000 plus my deposit. So I just accumulated extra $30,000 in the house, right? With all the 5K I'm paying for 2 good years. 5,200 I was paying for 2 years. If you calculate that one, it's like 5 times 12, 60. Jesus. So I paid them almost, hold on. 5 times 12. So I paid these people almost $120,000 for 2 years. 2 years. In addition to the 50 grand. So I had $170,000 in their bank account. Okay, let's go. So this is how this scam began. So now it got to a point with just a few months or after 1 year, I was in a property. The city of Calgary came to me and they're like, oh, I need to be able to own this property to be able to use it for short-term rental. And I'm just like, oh, well, my name is on the what do they call that thing? The title. My name is on the title as an encumbrance on the property, something like that. No, sorry, as a caveat on the property. So they said no, I needed to like reach out to the original owners for them to give me a letter so I can continue to run my shortlist in that house. I reached out to the original owners on title. They refused to sign any paper for me. They kept delaying. So within that period, for another 2 months, I had to shut down the property and cough out almost $10,000 out of my pockets to pay the city. Sorry, to pay the mortgage, because the real owners or the original owners, they don't want to sign any this thing with me. And when I was taking the property, I made it known that I was going to be using this property for short-term rental. Okay, so that obviously meant like I had no pay. Like I was just working for these people. I was already stuck in this scam, guys. I was stuck in this scam. So as the contract started approaching its end, I decided, okay, you know what? I really needed to get out. I needed to get out. So about a year plus before the end of the contract, I told the middleman company that I wanted to sell, and they agreed, and they were like, okay, I needed to get a realtor, right? And I said, no, I don't want to use a realtor, that I will just sell it in the market, because I just wanted to see how much people purchase this property for, right? And so I told the original owners, and these original owners are actually, there's a middleman before the original owners, right? I told them that, hey, I told the middleman to go and tell the original owners that I want to sell the property, because they told me that I have the option to either sell the property or just walk away, but there might be legal action if I walk away. So the middlemen then said, oh, they spoke to the original owners that, you know, there's no response yet, and this became months. I want to sell the property, but the owners are not even responding to me. So after that, you know, they just went silent. They were not even the middlemen were no longer responding to me anymore. I'm like, I don't understand. I want to sell this property. Sign this paper now. Let me sell the property. Because, and they still expect me to be paying them. So immediately I stop paying them, they will now say, oh, you did not meet your legal obligation, blah blah blah. So it took over like 4 months for me to, like, I had to finally get a realtor, and the realtor wrote to them, and like, if they don't respond to the realtor, I'm just going to get a lawyer. So it took over like 2 to 4 months for the original owners to finally, I said, okay, they want to sign for the house to be sold. And that, at that point, I only had 3 months left to the end of the deal. I either sell the property, get the property under my name, or lose over 200,000. Is it almost 200,000? Over 100,000 I have put into that property. So at that point, you know, I only had like 3 to 4 months left, you know, to sell or lose everything. So I did list the property, but it did not sell. It was already expensive. The Calgary property value was already going down, right? And, you know, everybody was broke in Canada, pretty much. Because most times when people want to buy a house that is almost $800,000, they are thinking of maybe an investment, a bigger space. You know, they're thinking of maybe a brand new house, because in this case, I have used this house for like 2 years. So at that same time, I was dealing with a car issue, which I'm going to be talking about that in a different video, because this is going to make it too long. So I was dealing with car issue. You know, I was dealing with a lot of emotional stress, financial pressure, so on and so forth. So through it all, we got to a point where it was very close to the end of the contract. I am not selling it. You know, have I even met the bank? I don't think I've even met the bank. I was not really thinking of like getting, I just can't believe that I'm not going to qualify. Like at this point, I'm not a one-man income, right? So I'm like, I'm not going to qualify, right? Then, and all of that. So I remember going to my local church that period, and I just spoke to the senior pastor, and this was 3 days to the close of it. I said, Pastor, I have this house that I mistakenly went to sign a rent to own agreement, and now I spoke to the original owners that, oh, can I extend the contract? And they're saying no, they don't want to extend the contract. Don't forget that they kept delaying me from the very beginning. From the very beginning, they kept delaying me in this house. They just kept delaying me. So it was like, okay, they don't want to extend, and it just kind of, he prayed, and like, it is well. So I just kind of like head on to it, and at that point I trusted God, and like, God, you know what, at this point I'm not going to be fighting this battle alone. I am going to just leave it to you. So I kind of head on to the word of God and said, if it's going, it's going. At that point I was already exhausted. There's nothing I can do. I'm like, yeah, just go if it goes. So just the next day after I was in church, and the next day, the realtor called me and said, yeah, she needs to take the listing off the market. There's nothing she can really do. The house closes in 2 days. Saying, but she has have I really tried qualifying for a property? I said, I beg, I have not really tried. So she gave me the contact of like one of these big banks, right? So maybe I just called them. I just say, oh yeah, maybe I have like 2 other houses and blah blah blah. They're like, yeah, forget it, you're not going to qualify. So I just like, see, I've called big banks, so they said I'm not qualified. She was like, okay, have you tried some smaller banks that give that a little bit more? Is it like they call it billion, that's whatever it is, but they give you a little bit more leverage. So she connected me to this broker that helps people get even their 3rd mortgage, because they work with different companies and they kind of look at the different packages of companies, right? So one of the things the guy told me was, what is your source of income? I'm like, I work, but I also do like short-term rental business. And they're like, oh yeah, they don't really consider those business in the bank. I'm like, yeah, but I do file my taxes, and I've been making really good money over the years because I've like been having a lot of outlets, and the income has been pretty consistent for the last like 2-3 years, right? So he then said, okay, I should just submit all my documents. He's going to take a look at it and see what he comes up with. So I did submit all my documents. Now at this point, it's already the last day for the contract to expire. So he just said, you know what, I sent your document to 1 or 2 banks. However, I need you to send a message to the owners and tell them that your documents are with this bank. You need them to give you at least a 2 weeks extension. So at that point, I just like, and it was like, at this point, you might have to use, no, at that point, I actually sent an email, but they didn't even answer me. So I was like, okay, at this point, I'm going to use a lawyer, because right now, this delay has been consistent over the years, right? And I'm just like, why don't you extend, right? Anyway, so I got a lawyer at that point, and the lawyer sent him an email saying, oh, we need a 2 weeks extension, blah blah blah, because we're currently processing. The bank needs more time. So that's why they were like, okay, sure, we'll give you a 2 weeks extension, because based on the original contract, they need to act in good faith, right? And I saw that, and they were like, okay, we'll give you a 2 weeks extension. And these are the people that said they will not give me extension before. See how God works, right? So when they gave me extension, within that 2 weeks, they already messaging, oh, if after 2 weeks you don't give us a bank approval, forget it. We're going to blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So we sent them a message again, because after 2 weeks, the bank then said, oh, they need more information. And at this time, they need information from the original owners, right? But in the original owners to sign a particular document that they were like, involved in all of these deals, because these were just so back and forth, like it was just so complicated for the bank. They don't even understand. Now, the original owners delayed another few weeks before they could even get their signature on that document. So I just told my lawyer to write there and say, this delay is based on the original owners who were asking for another like 3 or 4 weeks extension. So my lawyer wrote them, and because they saw that the delay, we had to put the blame on them, and it was evidence so that they were the one that delayed, they then gave us an extension for, I think, an additional 2 weeks after they signed the document. So when they gave us that extension, the bank was still not responding, and I don't know, because the files were so complicated. And I remember I told you that there's a friend that I said, oh, I was going to well, like, don't worry, I did with you, maybe owe this house, now me and you will just sign up. There was nothing involved, but they just wanted to help me, right? And so I called this person, I say, Alpha. So this friend now told me that, oh no, that he wants to get his own house, right? Plus he gets relationship, he gets, he's thinking of like family wise, so he doesn't want to be tied to anything. But I was just like, not so I got a last minute disappointment from my friend, which was okay. You know, it's life, is very understandable. Like he needed to think about his future, which was fair. So at that point I was like, okay, yeah, so I'm really like alone on this. And anyway, so we told this original owners of this house that, hey, the bank needs more time and all that. They gave us 2 weeks, right? So when that 2 weeks was about to end, like 3 days to that 2 weeks, the bank then sent a pre-approval. I was surprised. They sent a pre-approval. Is it a pre-approval they call it? So a pre-approval was based on the condition that would you remove financing and what else? And I pay a certain amount of money, something like that, right? Just to, because at that point I think we need to get the house about 20%. Yes, we need to get the house up to 20%. So I need to pay up the balance amount plus the money I already put inside. That was how we called these original owners, and they were like, no, that in the next 30 days, if the bank cannot give us the original final approval, we should forget about the house. Ha! I say I don't understand. These people kept going on and on and on. They kept delaying. They kept saying no. They kept, like, there's no tactic they did not do. If not for the fact that, you know, the wisdom of God and God's intervention, I would have lost over $170,000 from that house. No joke. So that was how, let me just kind of read a few things here, just so I keep myself up to task. So now this is 3 days to the end of the what's it called? So the bank sent a pre-approval. So according to them, they said the bank then said that they needed to close the house because they sent the pre-approval late. So the bank then said that they needed, you know, time to be able to look at documentations, blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. So we now told them that we have a pre-approval from the bank, but the bank needs another 2 to 3 weeks, right, to be able to at least look through documentations and so on and so forth. And in all of this, we even got them to like do a new what's it called, a new purchase agreement, blah blah, and that one was another delay. So now at this point, these people said that if we want to do that we'll have to pay $10,000, right, out of pocket as cash to them for them doing us that favor. I'm like, I don't understand. Buying this house from you, why am I paying you extra $10,000? And they also said that aside from that, I have to pay their lawyer fee, because immediately I got a lawyer involved, they have to get a lawyer involved because it has to be a lawyer to lawyer conversation. He said I have to pay their lawyer fee. I'm like, no, you already cheated me. You delayed me from the very beginning. You know, this whole thing was just so shady. So that was how I just told them. They were like, oh, I have to make a decision before the end of the next day. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So I thought about it. I slept through it, and I was just like, you know what? If a house has too much of this obstacle, it is time to let go. Because where there is turbulence, God is no longer there. I understand that from scripture. I understand that from the word. I understand that from my pastor, from the preaching, right? In this case, there's just too many obstacles. I'm like, God, don't leave this matter out. So that was how I just told my lawyer the next day, and I said, tell them that I'm moving out of the house. I'm not taking this deal again. I'm not paying them any $10,000. They can take their house and go. And at that time, we already have bank approval, right? So so they got back to us the next day, and I think in an email I told my lawyer to send them, I told them that tell them that I'm going to be taking legal action immediately I leave the house, especially from all my losses. And I just told them that straight up. So my lawyer sent them that message, and they go back to me the next day and said, okay, I should not pay 10,000 again, but I should just cover their lawyer fee of about 1,500 or so. I thought about it. Do I want to drag 1,500? And I said, okay, no problem. I'm just gonna take that. But I would have still insisted, but I just said I don't. It's better than paying $10,000 plus their lawyer fee, right? So they gave us another 2 weeks extension, and this was with the condition that I needed to sign a very detailed document that say after these 2 weeks, I will let go of the house. I will even pay them extra, blah blah blah. And I was like, I just called the the broker, and I was like, are you sure this bank is gonna close in 2 weeks? And they said, as long as they're giving you a pre-approval, and I think we already met all the conditions, they're gonna close. That was how, after 2 weeks, guys, they closed. But the battle, Jesus is Lord, the back and forth. And guess how much my lawyer charged me? Almost 10 grand. As if I slap you. Now I want a doughboy. I say, see, I know they do. Lawyer fee 10 grand. Who you say? You don't even tell me. I say, what you do? Even the emails is sending me, I'm using ChatGPT to type the email. I will send it to him, then he will not be the one to send it. I say, you don't even use your head to type anything because all the emails came from me. So what did you do? So I now saw that the lawyer was supposed to tell me how much he was supposed to charge me before I even started working. So at that point, I had to write that I'm not going to pay you that. So I had to negotiate it with him. Then I paid him at the end of the day. I paid him, was it 4,000 or so? So that was how I literally almost got scammed. I'll call it a scam because of the way the whole thing was packaged. They gave a house of 800 grand to me, one person, knowing fully well that Canada economy, it just doesn't make sense most of the time. If I don't have additional income that has profits, how will I be able to get or add that as my income? Right? So it was just very unreasonable. Plus the fact that they kept delaying, plus the fact that, you know, they kept putting conditions upon conditions, like, so that I just don't get the house. Anyway, so guys, I'm happy to announce that, guys, I bought the house. I bought the house as a rental property, and it's fun because immediately they let their hands off the house. The house started doing well. No joke. They were the weapon fashioned against my rental property in the house. They were the weapon fashioned against my rental business in the house. Like some people, like no joke, like immediately they let their hands off the house. It started doing well. Now I don't count losses in the house anymore. So if you are in a rent-own agreement, talk to somebody, talk to a lawyer. This is happening to a lot of people in Canada. In short, it's fun because I don't even know what I was thinking. Because they told me that house, maybe they gave it to someone else, and after 1 month, the woman left it. I don't know why I don't think. You know that kind of thing. Because people, they will just come get your deposit of maybe 20K, 50K, and that deposit is so much, and they'll get it from several people. In short, they were shocked that I got the house. They didn't even believe their eyes. So guys, I'm going to end this video here. So please stay wise. These scams are going on. These oppressions are going on. Stay wise and stay obedient. Let me know in the comment section if you have any experience of such or any similar experience. Bye. Yeah.